But don't you worry. Daddy's home.
Welcome to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. Well, the boys are back, and we're going to be breaking down every episode of the season for all the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed. Now, even though Amazon dropped 3 episodes today, we're going to be making our Easter egg videos one at a time, so there won't be any spoilers for episodes 2 and 3. And by the way, let me know what you think was the most messed up moment of the episode down in the comments. I'm going to go with this scene. This episode is called The Big Ride, named after issues 48 through 51 of the comics. The episode opens with Vought changing the statue of the Seven to include Starlight. The show's creators have said that this statue is made to emulate this sculpture of the Avengers seen during the end credits of Age of Ultron. I'd love the opening montage set to Sympathy for the Devil. That Rolling Stones song is about the devil recounting human history and making it clear that human beings are just as complicit in creating evil as he is. In the same way, the super terrorists, the heroes, Black Noir, and Vought are all kind of like devils, but they derive their power from us, the superhero-loving public. The opening meeting is between Jim Beaver's Secretary of Defense and Giancarlo Esposito's Mr. Edgar. This Vought attorney also appeared in the first episode of the show. Notice they're meeting in the headquarters of the Seven. This is a way of saying that they are the real power working behind the superheroes. During the opening, we see Black Noir infiltrating a terrorist stronghold. I love the symbolism of this cup being filled with blood while the suits are filling up their lunch orders.
Baby kale salad?
And I laughed out loud when the terrorists were doing their own marketing, just like the people at Vought. Because, in real life, this is how sick bastards like ISIS recruit young men, by creating slick video propaganda. Then we cut to Translucent's funeral, which, like many celebrity funerals, is an overproduced show meant to elicit emotions from the public and pry money from our wallets. Translucent is likely not even in this coffin. So it becomes a symbol for Vought, feigning transparency while actually deceiving the public just so they'll buy more crap. Notice the song You'll Never Vanish is on Voughtify, this universe's answer to Spotify. This is also parodying Elton John's #1 hit, Candle in the Wind '97.
You're 5,000 candles in the wind.
Outside, people are selling translucent prayer candles, commemorative plates, t-shirts. It's a good thing that this is a parody, and no one in real life would ever use a superhero's death to make a quick buck. Now notice when Homelander and Starlight are giving their impromptu statements to the press, their words pop up on the chyron just before they actually say them.
What comes in waves, you know?
This is because all of this was staged and pre-planned, and Vought News had their statements ready to load up in their graphics packages. And by the way, this Sandusky bar where the Deep is drinking has a sweatshirt for Ohio University on the wall. That's my alma mater. Go Bobcats. The boys are hiding out in a basement where drugs are being smuggled in A-Train sneakers. In the pawn shop, you can see numerous posters for soup, movies, and products, including Pop Claw starring in Terminal Beauty 2, the sequel to the movie that we saw in Season 1.
You got the right to remain silent, bitch.
And also a perfume called Autumn Breeze, endorsed by a hero named Liberty. Huey walks by several comics of the Seven. Now, this cover art was drawn by the boys' original artist, Derek Robertson. And this one was featured at the Believe Expo in Season 1. On the street, the discount shop is called the Superbuck Store, one more way of showing how soups have totally infiltrated this culture. I also love the dual montages of Huey and Starlight getting ready to meet. The song is Pressure by Billy Joel, and if you'll remember, Huey is a massive fan of the singer-songwriter.
When you ever besmirch Billy Joel.
Annie is feeling the pressures of fame, and Huey is feeling the pressures of being a fugitive. One is famous, the other is infamous. The New York Post on the train features a picture of Billy Butcher, but also of Shockwave, the soup that A-Train raced in Season 1. It also says that he's set another speed record, meaning that he's still coming for A-Train's spot in the 7. It's also important to note that the back of the Post is always reserved for sports headlines. So in this universe, the soups are also considered athletes. In the subway, we also see Maeve and Starlight's movie posters. Also, here you can see a poster for the Church of the Collective, the group trying to recruit the Deep. And Annie says she knows Gecko from Capes for Christ, the teen superhero group that she belonged to in the comics. The Deep meets a Green Arrow / Hawkeye imitation named Eagle the Archer. Eagle the Archer is a member of Payback in the comics. That's the team that's kind of a spoof of the Avengers. And later on, he'll lament about his superpower.
Then you start to question, like, and arrows against Tech 9s.
Now, just like how there's a running joke about Aquaman talking to fish,
My ability to talk with fish is of no help, Wonder Woman.
fans are always ripping on Hawkeye for being the least useful Avenger.
We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
Later on, Eagle mentions Kroger, a supermarket chain in the Midwest that's headquartered in Ohio.
You can always count on us.
Appropriate since this is taking place in Sandusky. He's recruiting the Deep into the Church of the Collective. Now remember, the public and most of the soups think that they're miracles from God. so superheroism is tied closely with religion. Now this religion will be some kind of counterpoint to that, or maybe an offshoot of it. The cover even looks like Dianetics, L. Ron Hubbard's book that laid the foundations for Scientology. There's also a brief clip of Seth Rogen, who's now directing a translucent movie called Lethal Force 2. It's likely that in-universe, they were in the middle of filming this translucent movie when he died, so the solution is that they'll just finish the movie, but keep the hero invisible. In Season 1, Rogen did a press junket with Black Noir where he name-dropped the Vought cinematic universe. So all of these movies are kind of like the MCU. They all tie in together and will eventually feature some kind of crossover. And I really hope that in the show, we eventually get to see a clip from them. Then we see Chris Hansen hosting a show called A Closer Look. Now this is kind of like America's Most Wanted, with reenactments that show us the public story of last season's ending. And, thank God, the baby was okay. And the woman playing Madeline Stillwell is a huge Easter egg, because if you remember, the actual character was played by Elizabeth Shue. But this actress, that's your mom. Now, a couple of times in the episode, Frenchie calls Huey Petite Huey, his nickname from the comics. Last season, Show Huey pointed out that he's 6'1", but the nickname is stuck, because in the comics, Huey is pretty short. Now, this tag in their hideout reads Clarkson Avenue, which is a real place in Brooklyn. But it's interesting that they chose this street because Clarkson sounds like Son of Clark or Son of Superman, similar to Homelander's son that he goes to see at the end of the episode. We meet Blind Spot, a riff on Marvel's Daredevil.
What happens if, I don't know, I do this?
There's an ad for Citizen Starlight in the Cab, the same movie that was pitched to Annie in Season 1. Tech Knight's movie gets a name drop.
I believe you have a premiere of Tech Knight Lives to go to?
Tech Knight is Vought's answer to Iron Man. He's a rich billionaire with a super suit and no powers. In the comics, his whole storyline is about him getting obsessed with having sex with everything that he sees, even an asteroid that's hurtling toward Earth. I really hope we see Tech Knight later in the series. Starlight mentions Big Game, who A-Train was caught bragging to back in Episode 1.
Dude, that's nasty.
Here, Huey mentions,
Yeah, what if he does that to an airplane or the fucking Brooklyn Bridge?
Now this is an Easter egg from the comics, when the Seven intervened in 9/11 and caused an airliner to crash into the Brooklyn Bridge. This Hunger Games shout-out,
What's her name from the Hunger Games? Katniss.
is pretty meta, since Jack Quaid fought against Katniss Everdeen in the movie. When Mother's Milk mentions John Cusack and Asterio, he's talking about this scene in the movie Say Anything. Homelander and Maeve are shooting a promo for the war. Now this, along with the earlier focus group, is highlighting that in America, war is treated as a product. It's a way for large firms like Lockheed Martin to make billions selling weapons to the government. But also, war makes money for the entertainment industry. War movies, video games, toys, trading cards. I have a complete set of Operation Enduring Freedom trading cards were released in the aftermath of 9/11. Wow, Secretary of Homeland Security Tom Ridge, wait till I tell the fellas. Then Stormfront comes along and uses the power of social media to expose this facade.
Oh, FYI, not a real base. As if Homelander and Maeve are gonna eat MREs and piss in a ditch with the rest of the grunts.
Yeah, we're filming.
In the comics, Stormfront is a literal Nazi who was given powers just before World War II and then defected to the USA, but more on that in a bit. There are some funny social media names popping up in her video, like Anguished Emo Homelander, a spoof of the Twitter account Emo Kylo Ren. There's also Jacked Off Jupiter, a spoof of Jack Jupiter from The Boys comics. This one says Lamplighter, the member of the Seven who disappeared just before the series after he killed Mallory's grandkids. And then Susan Raynor's head explodes. This is also taken from a story in the comics, where loads of soups are given a knockoff version of Compound B that kills them all when it's activated. We see a Congressman Victoria Newman on the news. Now notice, she's not on Vought News, so she's actually allowed to speak out against the company. In the comic book, Victor Newman was vice president and was controlled by Vought. So here, this character's been gender swapped, but also plays a different role in the story. I'm wondering if in a later episode, she'll be replaced by the shapeshifter we saw in Season 1. So eventually, she'll be under the control of Vought. Mr. Edgar confirms that Compound V was originally developed by the Nazis, just like in the comics. He also mentions the character Soldier Boy, the boy's answer to Captain America.
Heroes, like Soldier Boy, killing Germans by the dozen.
But in the comics, Soldier Boy and the other soups are total idiots. They don't know any military protocol, so they just get an entire unit murdered. The episode ends with Annie on a bench alone, looking at a distant Statue of Liberty. In the comics and the show, Annie and Huey met on a bench in Central Park, looking at the skyline. Now back then, the city and all of her dreams seemed so close. Now they're distant and covered in a foggy haze. Well guys, that's all the Easter eggs that I found. If you found any, let me know in the comments below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.